She wore pearls, held a book, and walked with quiet dignity. That alone was enough for a cop to stop her. No crime, no reason, just presence. What he didn't know was that she wasn't just any woman. She was the wife of the city's top cop. And in the next 10 minutes, his entire career would hang in the balance. Stick around, because what happens when authority is challenged by truth might just surprise you. If this story moves you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Help us keep telling the stories that others are too afraid to show. The morning sun peeked over the historic rooftops of Eastbridge, casting a soft amber hue over the cobblestone streets. The air carried a gentle breeze, laced with the scent of magnolia blossoms and fresh brewed coffee drifting from corner cafes. It was the kind of spring morning that made the world feel peaceful, timeless, like it had always been this way. But beneath that calm, the city held quiet stories waiting to stir. Elise Bennett walked with purpose, her footsteps light but deliberate against the brick sidewalk. She moved with the grace of a woman who had long ago learned how to carry herself in every room, no matter who else was in it. At 61, Elise embodied a kind of quiet dignity that couldn't be taught, only earned. Her salt and pepper curls were styled neatly above her shoulders, and a pair of small pearl earrings peeked through from under her hair. She wore a tailored cream blouse tucked into wide-legged linen trousers and a pair of low-heeled shoes that clicked softly as she moved. Dangling gently around her neck was a vintage pearl necklace, subtle but unmistakably real. It had been a gift from her husband Malcolm on their 20th anniversary. She wore it every year on that date without fail. This morning was no exception. She had just stepped out of a small family-run bookstore nestled between a florist and an art gallery, holding a neatly wrapped package tied with blue ribbon. Inside was a rare first edition of James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, a surprise gift she'd planned for Malcolm. Eastbridge's downtown streets bustled with the usual rhythm: young couples walking hand in hand, shopkeepers sweeping storefronts, and older residents chatting on shaded benches. Elise passed them all with a polite smile, not quite inviting conversation, but never ignoring the world around her. She'd grown up in this city, seen it through decades of change and struggle, and though she sometimes questioned whether it had changed enough, she still believed in its soul. A patrol car idled half a block down, barely noticeable to most. But Elise caught it in the corner of her eye. She didn't flinch. She didn't alter her stride or change direction. After all, what reason did she have to? This was her neighborhood. These were her streets. If anything, she was more at home here than the officers in that cruiser. She clutched the package lightly in one hand and pressed the other into her pocket, feeling the smooth edge of her phone just in case. The cruiser didn't move, but she could feel the weight of its gaze. It wasn't new to her. Even after all these years, even with the respect that came with being the wife of the city's police chief, there were places and moments where none of it seemed to matter, where her skin still spoke louder than her voice. But she didn't let that thought linger, not today. She crossed the next intersection with ease, her posture tall, her face composed. She had no idea that in just a few minutes, her peaceful walk would become the center of a public reckoning. The officer wasn't just watching, he was judging. Elise Bennett, a respected community leader and wife of Eastbridge's police chief, was about to be treated like a suspect in the very city she had helped shape. At the corner of King and Broad, Officer Derek Malloy stood by his cruiser, bored from a slow shift. Then he saw her, confident, graceful, wearing pearls. She didn't look at him. That bothered him. He stepped forward and called out, "Hey." Elise stopped, calm as ever. "Yes, officer?" He pointed at her necklace. "Where'd you get that?" "It was a gift from my husband," she answered. "Looks expensive," he said. "You sure it's yours?" "Yes, I'm sure. We had a report. Woman matching your description, shoplifting downtown." "I just left a bookstore. I don't shoplift. Mind showing me some ID?" "Do you have reason to think I committed a crime?" she asked. "You match the description." "It's procedure." "No," she said. "It's harassment." People were starting to notice. Phones were recording. But Malloy didn't stop. Her calm unnerved him. And this was only the beginning. She got under his skin. Backing off wasn't an option anymore, not with the crowd watching. "You don't look like someone who'd just be strolling through here with pearls and a rare book," he said, nodding toward the package. "You understand why I'd be concerned?" "No," she replied, her voice tightening. "I don't. But I've learned not to expect understanding from people like you." His jaw clenched. "People like me?" She stared him down. The kind of people who see skin color before character. His hand drifted toward his radio. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to cooperate. And I'm going to need you to explain why," she said calmly. "If you have no cause, then let me be." The sidewalk had become a stage. Murmurs turned to questions. "What's going on?" "She didn't do anything." "Why is he bothering her?" Malloy squared up. "You think you're above the law?" Elise didn't flinch. "No. But I do think I have the right to walk in my own city without being interrogated for existing." The crowd leaned in. Malloy could feel authority slipping from his grip, but he didn't know who he was really dealing with. Elise stood firm, the air around her charged. What began as a peaceful walk had shifted into a confrontation that felt anything but ordinary. He moved closer, trying to tower over her. His hand hovered near his belt, not on his weapon, but close enough to send a message. "I'm not going to ask again," he said. "Show me some ID." She didn't budge. "I won't surrender my rights just because you don't like how I look. You've given no reasonable suspicion." "You're refusing a lawful order," he snapped. "You're giving an unlawful one," she replied coolly. "And yes, I'm refusing to be part of your performance." Phones were raised. A young man whispered, "She's holding her ground." An older woman by a flower cart muttered, "It never ends, does it?" Malloy looked around, uneasy. "Ma'am, this is your final warning." She tilted her head. "Or what?" He hesitated. He hadn't expected resistance. She wasn't just saying no, she was drawing a line. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," he growled. "It's already harder than it should be," she said softly. "You made it that way the moment you stopped me." That landed. He looked at her necklace again and scoffed. "Tell me what store sells pearls like that around here? You sure you didn't just walk out with it?" "No more pretense." A direct accusation. "I'm sure," she said evenly. "But you seem unsure of your own authority." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Someone behind Elise whispered, "She's not playing." Another voice called out, "Are you seriously accusing this woman of theft because she's wearing pearls?" From across the street, someone else shouted, "This is Eastbridge, not 1955. Malloy turned toward the speaker, face flushed. "Back off," he barked. "This is an active police investigation." "You mean public harassment?" another replied. "You're escalating for no reason." Elise remained still, chin lifted, heart pounding, but her face revealed none of it. She understood now this wasn't just about her. It was about principle. Standing her ground mattered more than walking away. "I'm done talking," Malloy snapped. "Show me ID, or you'll be detained." Elise calmly set the wrapped book down on a bench and folded her arms. "Then do what you think you need to do," she said. "But understand this, you're not detaining me because of what I've done. You're detaining me because of who I am." He reached for his radio but was interrupted. "She's right," a man in a blazer called out. He stepped forward. "I've been here the whole time. She hasn't done anything. And if you touch her without cause, it's going straight to the press." "I suggest you stay out of this," Malloy warned. "I suggest you remember you're being filmed from every angle," the man shot back. "What you're doing looks a lot like abuse of power." Malloy looked around. Nearly everyone had their phones up. Several were live streaming. A woman shouted, "Facebook's already blowing up, over 100 people watching." Elise saw Malloy's expression shift: anger, uncertainty, pride, fear. The badge no longer protected him from public judgment. His next move might decide not just his morning, but his career. "You think you're something special?" he muttered. "I think I know my rights," Elise replied. "And you don't get to take them just because you're uncomfortable." Silence fell. Then chirp. A siren blipped behind him. Another cruiser had arrived. A female officer in her 40s stepped out, her expression unreadable. "Everything okay here, Derek?" she asked, voice calm but cool. Malloy turned, caught off guard. "Just questioning a suspicious individual." She looked at Elise. Then at the crowd. "Doesn't look like that's going well," she said. "Maybe we need to cool this down." "I've got it under control," Malloy snapped. "Doesn't look that way to me," she replied flatly. "We don't need a viral mess this morning." Elise let out a breath, not of relief but readiness. The fire inside her hadn't faded. It was growing. Malloy clenched his fists. He hadn't won. He hadn't forced her into fear, and he hated it. But what he didn't know was that the real storm hadn't even started, because the last person he expected was already on her way. The energy on the street shifted. What began as a quiet confrontation had drawn the full attention of the neighborhood. Phones were everywhere. Storefronts emptied. People gathered, whispering. It was no longer just one woman and one officer. It was a line in the sand, and Elise stood right at the center of it. Calm, unshaken, ready. Elise didn't need to speak. The crowd was doing it for her now. "This is ridiculous," someone behind her said. "She hasn't done a damn thing. He's just mad she's not scared." A younger man live streaming added, "This woman is being harassed on King Street for nothing. She's got a book and a pearl necklace, and that's apparently enough for a badge and a threat." Elise heard every word but kept her focus forward. Her heartbeat stayed steady, not from fear but from years of practice. This wasn't her first time being questioned for simply existing. But never like this. Not in broad daylight. Not with this many witnesses. Not with a uniformed officer so brazen. Malloy was unraveling. His hand twitched near his hip. His posture tensed. His confidence faded with every voice speaking up. Training and experience were no match for public accountability. "I'm telling you all to back up," he shouted, turning in a slow circle. "This is a police matter." But the crowd stood firm. "Then do your job with integrity." A woman in scrubs shouted, "We pay your salary not to harass someone for walking while black." Applause broke out. Malloy flushed red. His grip on control was slipping, and he knew it. Turning back to Elise, he barked, "You've got 5 seconds to comply. I'm not playing around." "Neither am I," Elise replied, calm and unwavering. "And I'm not pretending I don't know what this is. You didn't stop me because of a report. You stopped me because of how I look. Because I didn't lower my eyes when I saw your badge." A woman with a toddler stepped forward. "She's speaking for a lot of us," she said. Malloy's radio crackled. He ignored it. He was too deep in. Every second he lost more ground. Elise continued, steady and sharp, "You keep asking me to prove who I am. But the real question is, who are you? What kind of man feels threatened by a woman holding a book?" Laughter rippled through the crowd, not mocking, but stunned by the absurdity. Then, a sharp voice from the crowd cut through. "You're on livestream, officer. Thousands are watching." Malloy flinched. His eyes darted to the phones, to the faces around him, none afraid, all watching. "Keep recording," someone said. "Let the whole country see." Still, Elise didn't move. She stood tall, eyes locked on his. Her silence now spoke louder than her words ever could. The burden had shifted to him. Malloy opened his mouth, then closed it. He stepped back half a foot. For a second, it looked like he might walk away. But pride wouldn't let him. Pressure mounted. Cameras rolled. "All right," he snapped. "You want to act like this is a game? We'll take it downtown." He reached for her wrist. "No," several voices shouted at once. A woman ran forward, blocking him. "Don't touch her. You've got no right." Elise didn't flinch. "Go ahead," she said, her voice cold. "Arrest me in front of all these people. Then watch what happens next." Malloy froze. His hand hovered in the air. The power had shifted and he could feel it. One wrong move, and this wasn't just a viral moment. It was a lawsuit. A scandal. The end of his career. A man in a delivery uniform stepped closer and called out, "You keep saying you're just doing your job, but we're all watching what that really means." "Doing your job?" The man scoffed. "No one's buying that anymore." Malloy spun toward him. "Stay out of it." "I'm already in it," the man shot back. "We all are. We've seen this story too many times. It always ends with someone in cuffs who didn't do a damn thing wrong." Elise raised her voice, calm and firm. "You want to know who I am? Fine, I'm Elise Bennett. I've lived in Eastbridge longer than you've worn that badge. I'm a business owner, a community volunteer, a mother, a wife." Malloy froze. Confusion crossed his face, then something else. She stepped closer, not threatening, just fully in control. "My husband," she added, "is Chief Malcolm Bennett." A wave of silence hit the street. The crowd inhaled as one. Malloy blinked. "Chief Bennett," he repeated, barely a whisper. Elise nodded. "Yes. And right now," He's probably watching this from his office. Gasps. A nervous laugh. Oh Lord, he's done, someone muttered. Malloy stood frozen, hand still near her wrist. His lips moved, but no words came. He'd accused the police chief's wife of theft right in front of the entire neighborhood. Elise didn't move, didn't smirk. She didn't need to. Her name had done the work for her. Malloy backed away slowly, sweat forming at his hairline. I wasn't aware. Clearly, Elise said coolly. You weren't aware of a lot of things. Before he could fumble for an apology, the roar of an SUV cut through the crowd. A black department-issued vehicle screeched to a stop. The door flung open before the engine quieted. Chief Malcolm Bennett stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, full uniform. His presence didn't just command attention, it demanded it. The crowd parted instinctively. His eyes scanned the scene. Phones, faces, shock. But his focus landed first on Elise. She gave him a small nod. I'm okay. Then his gaze locked on Malloy and the air turned cold. Officer Malloy, he said, voice like steel. What exactly is going on here? Malloy's mouth opened, then closed. I was just, she matched a description. A jewelry theft this morning. I was following up. Did you see her commit a crime? Malcolm asked. No, sir. Did she run? Lie? Resist? Do anything other than ask you to respect her rights? Malloy's voice cracked. No, sir. Then explain. Chief Bennett said, stepping closer. How that justifies putting your hand on your weapon and threatening to detain an unarmed woman, my wife. The silence that followed wasn't just tense. It was historic. I didn't know who she was, Malloy muttered. Malcolm's tone turned ice cold. And that's the problem. You saw a black woman with confidence and decided she was a threat. You didn't ask questions, you assumed. And now you've embarrassed this department, this city, and yourself. Elise stood quietly, poised, while Malloy shrank under the weight of his own mistake. You're dismissed, Malcolm said sharply. Badge, my desk. 1 hour. Yes, sir, Malloy replied, retreating in silence as phones filmed his every step. Elise turned to Malcolm. You okay? He asked. I'm fine, she answered. But this isn't just about today. He nodded. We fix it. Together. As they walked away, the crowd stayed still, processing what they'd just seen. A moment of public reckoning. No applause, no shouts, just quiet truth settling like dust after a storm. Elise looked ahead, steady. Malcolm squeezed her hand. The silence behind them spoke louder than any words. Change had begun. I didn't know who she was, Malloy muttered. Malcolm's voice turned cold. And that's the problem. You saw a black woman walking with pride and decided she didn't belong. You didn't ask, you assumed. And now you've embarrassed this department, this city, and yourself. Elise stood still, calm, composed, watching as the silence became heavier than any siren. Malcolm stepped closer. Badge, my desk, 1 hour. Malloy didn't argue. He just nodded, his face drained of color, and walked off slowly as dozens of phones recorded every step. Elise didn't move. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply turned to her husband and said, This wasn't just about me. Malcolm nodded. I know. And it's not over. That night, the video hit over 1 million views. Headlines erupted. Chief's wife harassed by officer in viral confrontation. Civil rights groups issued statements. The mayor called for a department-wide audit. And inside the precinct, real change began, quiet, long overdue, and irreversible. Across Eastbridge, from cafes to classrooms, people weren't just talking, they were remembering. The woman with pearls didn't raise her voice, but she shifted the city. Because sometimes justice begins not with a verdict, but with a name that refuses to be forgotten. Her name was Elise Bennett. And now, everyone knew it. Accountability had a new face, and her name was Elise Bennett. Conservative voices criticized the chief for embarrassing his officer. But for most people, this wasn't about politics, it was about finally being seen. Elise sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling headlines. Calm on the outside, but Malcolm could tell she was preparing. They're calling you the Rosa Parks of Eastbridge, he said. Cute, she replied. There's a petition for your statue. She rolled her eyes. Malcolm, I didn't ask for this. I know, he said, but maybe it asked for you. They both knew it wouldn't stop at Malloy. This would spark a much larger fight. Are you ready? She asked. Are you? He returned. The next day, Elise spoke out on local news, calm and composed. I didn't speak up because I'm the chief's wife. I spoke up because I'm tired of watching people who look like me be treated as threats. The segment aired during prime time and went viral. She became a voice for many. At the precinct, Malcolm faced a storm of his own. In a tense meeting, senior officers questioned his public stance. You embarrassed the department, one said. No, Malcolm replied. We embarrass ourselves when we protect bad behavior. He demanded an audit of excessive force complaints, saying if we burn, let it be a controlled burn. At home, Elise was already organizing a town hall, determined to build something lasting. It's not just about what we tear down, she said. It's about what we build next. Malcolm smiled. You always think 10 steps ahead, she grinned. Had to. You were always catching up. They embraced quietly, their strength now a shared force. Inside the Eastbridge PD, everything shifted. Loyalty was being redefined. You were either with the chief or you weren't. And everyone knew it. What started with a wrongful stop ended up exposing cracks in a much larger system. This story challenges us to ask, how many times have we seen injustice and said nothing? Clarice didn't just stand up for herself, she forced an entire city to look in the mirror. To you, the one still reading, what do you think? Have you ever been misjudged because of your skin, your voice, or your silence? Have you ever stood for what's right, only to feel alone? I have. And I believe this, no one should have to make themselves small just so someone else can feel big. I also believe that if one woman can remain unshaken in the face of intimidation, then so can you. Justice doesn't always come from a courtroom. Sometimes it begins with a quiet but firm "I've done nothing wrong" on a street that was never meant to feel safe. Note: this story is entirely fictional and created for the purpose of raising awareness. It highlights issues of responsibility, justice, and the importance of treating everyone with respect and dignity. We firmly oppose violence, prejudice, and injustice in all forms. Viewer discretion is advised.